First, there's a story about nothing in particular. To play with the mind a little. There's a story about a teacher who used to propound his teachings by telling stories. And he had a group of students who came and sat at his feet and listened to his stories for some time. But amongst those students there was one young man who came every day to hear the stories, the teaching stories of the teacher, but he never could get to understand what the stories were about. When the teacher asked the students what their understanding of the story was, he was just completely unable to present any explanation that indicated that he understood what the stories were about. So the teacher got exasperated with him and sent him away. Don't come anymore, just go. Well, after some long while, the teacher was sitting outside his front door one day when a limousine came driving up with a driver, big black thing, and out stepped his student. And his student said, "Master, I've come to thank you for your stories and your teaching." Well, the teacher was very sad, but how did this happen? And the student said, "Well, I happen to remember all your stories, and I wrote them down in a book, and the book has become so famous all over the world, I've made millions of dollars." Thank you. And there's a reminder of that story of Mullah Nasruddin. Now, Mullah Nasruddin, though he was a mystic, and renowned for being a mystic, he was illiterate. He couldn't read and write. And one day it so happened that a wandering fakir, now we know that fakirs are the magicians of the Sufi world. So this wandering fakir came into town and he told the townspeople that for a few silver coins he could confer the ability to read and write on. Well, this got to the ears of Mullah Nasruddin, and he hurried into town with his few coins, which he handed over to the fakir. And the fakir put his hand on Mullah Nasruddin's head and muttered a few incantations. And Mullah went off. But a couple of days later, the Mullah came running into town, waving a book around. "Where is that fakir? Where is that fakir?" And the townspeople said, "Oh, he's left town already. But tell us, Mullah, can you read?" And the Mullah said, "Yes, I can read, and this book says that all fakirs are charlatans and liars." Then there's a story of a wandering fakir whose name was Faisal. Now, we know that magicians are known to carry a bag of tricks. And indeed, Faisal did have a bag, which he carried with him everywhere. Well, in his wanderings, Faisal happened to meet a priest. And the priest, as what priests do, tried to convert Faisal. But you know, fakirs, magicians, they have their own way. And Faisal was quite offended by being talked down to by a priest. So, after a little bit of discussion, Faisal said to the priest, "Well, you are so powerful, you won't mind if I put you in my bag." And the priest said, "Well, this just shows what a barbarian you are. May God have mercy on you." And within a split moment, the priest disappeared in Faisal's bag, never to be seen again. Well, Faisal kept wandering around, and he found that there were many priests and monks who were the same, always wanting to convert you, always wanting to tell you what to do and what to believe. So he got into the habit of just popping them in his bag and they disappeared. But then, of course, Faisal came to recognize that there was a lot of bad things going on in the world. So he just got into the practice of popping it all into his bag. Well, do you know what happened in these circumstances? There are a lot of hungry demons around because there wasn't enough bad people. So Faisal just popped the demons into his bag too. But to know the way of demons, they kept inflating his bag. So he took his bag to a blacksmith, and he asked the blacksmith how much it would cost to flatten his bag. And the blacksmith said, "Well, that'll be 10 pieces of silver." "Oh, fine," said Faisal. So the blacksmith took the bag and he hammered, but every time he hammered it, it just kept inflating again. And the blacksmith got so impatient, he said, "You must have a lot of devils in this bag." Faisal said, "Oh, well, yes." So anyway, the Faisal gave the blacksmith 1 silver coin for his trouble. It wasn't worth a 10. And he opened the bag, and all the battered demons flew out and went straight back down to hell. Well, Faisal went about his business of getting rid of evil and bad in the world, popping it all in his bag. But this is the nature of things. Faisal got old, and it was time for him to pass. So, as it happened, when he died, he found himself down in hell. And when he saw the 2 big demons waiting at the door, he said, "What am I doing here? I dealt with all the bad in the world." And the demon looked up his book and said, "Oh, well, yes, but, it's because you had a concentration on bad things that you really should be here." Oh, Faisal didn't like that at all. So he popped hell in his bag. So then he made his way to heaven. And when he got to the pearly gates, there were a couple of big burly angels on duty there. And Faisal said, "You have to let me in." And the angel said, "Well, why should we let you in?" And Faisal said, "Because there's no more hell, so there's no other place to go. And if you don't let me in, I'll just pop you in my bag." I'd like you to discuss this story. In the light of what's been happening over these last days.